Jesse Tyler Ferguson is best known for playing Mitchell Pritchett on the award-winning series Modern Family, but he is also known for his work on Broadway. Very, very accomplished Broadway star. Now Jesse is taking on the podcasting world with his new podcast, Dinner on Me with Jesse Tyler Ferguson. This is Just Be with Jesse Tyler Ferguson. So where are you, LA?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
In Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, really? Is it great there?
Yeah.
Is it nice?
It was not great. It's better now. It was not great when I was there.
Okay. I've never been. I've never been to Taos or any of the places I've always wanted to go there. Just one of the few places.
Santa Fe is really nice.
Really? It is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm putting that on my list right now. So I think I met you once with Eric. We came to meet you somewhere. Were you at had you finished a play or you were doing something? I'm like, it's like foggy,
That's
but I
right.
met you in New York somewhere.
The first time I met you was we were both on an episode of Watch What Happens Live. And you were so nice to me. And I was like, I had never done it before. And I also had never met anyone from the Real Housewives franchise. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I was terrified. And you completely alleviated all of my fears. I was like, oh, she's so cool. She's so sweet. She's so down to earth. You brought me Skinnygirl margarita mix. And
of course.
you were just very nice. And then the next time I met you, we were with Eric, and I don't know if it was a play. Where is it? I feel like it might have been in New York. You didn't come to visit.
It was in New York. It was at a
Family.
warehousey brick wall type cool place, and there was a party, and you were there. And I don't even know if you were married yet.
I might not have been married yet. Yeah.
So, now I didn't know a lot about you. I didn't know how embedded in theater you really are. That's really the core of your being and your business, and that's your passion, or that's just the path you have been mostly on?
No, that's what I intended to do with my career is be a theater actor. I went to school for musical theater specifically, and did that for quite a few years before getting an opportunity to come to LA and do TV. And I never wanted to do TV. I was fine doing theater. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was happy to do it. I just never saw myself as, I don't want to say as talented enough, but I just never saw myself as someone who would ever be desired to be on TV. I never
commercial enough.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, but then I always used every opportunity when I was doing Modern Family to go back to do theater in New York, whether it be Shakespeare in the Park over the summer, which is a really great truncated schedule. It's just over the summer, so it fits right into the hiatus. And then when I was done with Modern Family, I went right back to theater and did a play for a year. It's always been my major passion. But now I love that I have opportunity to do other things and make some money.
Well, is it a comedian just wanting to get back on the road? It's the connection and it's that jolt. Is it that fix? Because being on TV, I went to the Groundlings in Second City. I like doing improv, and being on reality TV when I have done it, or even just doing my social media, it's so not constricting. And I would think that, and when I've done a few things on TV, it's been so tedious to me. It feels like you have to do this, then we have to pick it up 17 ways, and we have to pick up the other opposite. And for me, I think that sounds very, very constricting, and you have to be very patient. Yeah.
Well, just like, okay, for example, a podcast is a great long form conversation. When you're on a talk show with Ellen or,
yes.
I'm going to go back to Rosie O'Donnell. You're telling a story in 6 minutes.
It's directing traffic. It's a traffic cop.
Oh, it's insane. And I always have heart palpitations when I'm doing it. I'm I got to get all my story points out. But with the podcast, you get to have this 45 to an hour long conversation with someone and really get to know someone. So in kind of the same way, that's why I love theater. It's because you have this you're afforded all this time, both with creating a character, but then also in your performance with an audience. You get to sit with an audience for an hour and a half or 2 hours or however long the play is and tell the story at your own pace. And you're not rushing against the clock and having to get to the next scene because, you got to make lunch. It's you get to do this thing for 2 hours and show an audience what the story is. And there's no editor that's going to come in and slice it up and Frankenstein it together into whatever it is and my God, from reality TV, you must have a whole different experience with what that is. But like, it's just this great luxury of having this intimacy with this group of people who have chosen to sit with you in this quiet, dark space for a few hours. And I just love it.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. You're connecting.
It doesn't have to be perfect, because if you make a mistake or you don't feel like you're really connected to a moment, like you got to do it again tomorrow, you know?
That's hard to leave behind yesterday. Like I did a talk show for a year, which I didn't like because I hated directing traffic, but I didn't like if you're a person who gets in your head about what just happened, but you have no choice. The show must go on.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. Yeah. And no, with reality TV, with the editing, reality TV is effectively a blind date. You come home, you tell your friend in 3 minutes what it was. So it's usually, they don't usually have an axe to grind with one person. It's usually like what it was. It's just a crystallization of what it was,
Right.
So what was it like leaving, like just knowing that the ending was coming of Modern Family, of that? Was it depressing at all? Did you feel like lost when it was over? Did it feel weird, or it felt like liberating, like a new chapter?
It's a combination of so many different things, in the same way that it feels like people are gathering together for a funeral as well as like a celebration. Like it's so many different emotions coming at you from so many different directions. We did it for 11 years, which is a really, really long time. I think artistically we were all ready to move on.
Tapped out.
But
get the last money in the last story, but we did it.
That's right. And there's also this great you've been with these people every day for 11 years, and to have to say goodbye to them, I guess it's sort of the same as like how people feel at the end of like graduation from, high school. It's like you've got all these people that you've spent, maybe 12 years with, like all of a sudden you're not going to see every day. I didn't have a connection with anyone I went to high school with, so I don't know what that feels like. But like, I imagine it's something like that. Like these people that you just have such a deep connection to, you don't get to see on a regular basis. But for us, it's interesting because when we ended in February of 2020. So we all had we were like, what's next? And then we're like, oh, it's lockdown for, a year and a half.
Oh, right. A good time to process, but a little too much time.
A little too much time. I think for all of us, we were excited to see each other again in a few months, to reunite on the Jimmy Kimmel show when they were going to air the actual finale. There was a lot of press that was going to be around that. We were all going to be together. We all thought, okay, well, I'll see you, in a few months. And we didn't get to see each other. And it was on Zoom in little boxes. And so we didn't really get to process it in the way that I think we were intending to process it. And, for me, I was meant to go to New York and start work on a play. I actually left 2 weeks after we were done shooting, and I was in the process of that when COVID happened. So I had to come back to LA and then wonder, am I ever going to do this thing that I've been so excited to do for so long? That was sort of going to bring me out of the depression or the lull of not being on Modern Family anymore. And I didn't have that thing either. And it was a very interesting time for all of us.
You had no methadone. You were just sort of cold turkey.
Yeah.
Did you feel a little bit listen, 11 years is the sickest run ever, but did you feel like you peaked in high school? You were younger in your career, and are you ever going to do anything as major as that? And afraid that would be your biggest, bestest thing you'd ever do, which, by the way, if it was, it would still be pretty amazing.
Oh,
Friends or anything that anybody was on for years.
I think for me, at least coming up to this point, so many projects that I had got to do were well, that was it. That was going to be that was the apex of my career. And I've had several moments like that before Modern Family, which I'm really grateful for. And then even after Modern Family, I did this play and I got to win a Tony Award for it. And I thought, well, this is a whole other level, So
in a different genre.
In a different genre, in a different medium. So it's I don't think there will ever be anything like Modern Family. I don't anticipate being on another show that runs for 11 years and having a connection with a cast as deeply as I did with the cast of Modern Family. But you never know. I mean, Ed O'Neill thought that Married with Children was going to be his last thing. And he went on, and that ran for 11 years. And then he did another series that was more successful and he was more praised for. So, I think that's very rare, but it certainly happens. And, if you ever start to think well, that was it with my career, you're fucking yourself so hard because I'm only 47 years old, which, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would have said that's old, but I don't feel old and I have so much more I want to do. So I feel very optimistic.
And what does your husband do?
Well, he's technically a lawyer. He passed the bar, and he didn't work actually practicing law, but he set up a lot of nonprofits for different influencers and celebrities. He would work on the nonprofits, and he had a company that actually did that for a while. And he's still very active in politics, but he right now has been producing a lot, and he's produced several Broadway shows, and he's actually been nominated. He was nominated a few days ago for his 5th Tony Award.
Wow.
And it's so funny because on the first season, he decided to produce something. He was nominated for 2 different Tony Awards, and he won one of them. And Bethenny, I've been in this business for like 20 years, and I have never at that point been even nominated for a Tony Award. And he, like, in his first season was like, I'm going to just see what this is like, and dipped his toe in, and boom, Tony Award. I was like, that is so unfair. But so since then I have got my own.
That's unbelievable because, well, I have a fiance who's a real estate developer, like fully a real estate developer. But he's produced movies, and he's produced 12 movies, like with people that all actors and actresses that, and he's won a Peabody. And I always laugh because he'll shoot me in like the bathtub doing something on like the sprayer, and like we called it bathtub callers. And I'm like, he's like, I have a Peabody, but I'll never be more proud of any project than bathtub callers. Like I was, so it's just funny that he's like a civilian, like your husband, but like also he's won Tonys. It's just funny. Like that's not, Paul's a real estate developer. He's not. And now he's producing a YouTube series for me because I asked him to, and it's just funny because he's just like this conservative Boston guy, and like there he has like produced movies with all kinds of people that you could have been.
But isn't that? I mean, I love that. Like, I mean, for me, like when I was growing up, it was like you pick a lane and you stick with it. And like I love that Justin has done like all these different things, and like he went to law school, but then now he's producing Broadway. Like it's just, how do you get from that to that? Like I just love that you. It's very inspiring to not put yourself in a box like that. I'm not as good at it. Like I feel like, okay, I do this thing. This is what people expect me to do, and that's what I'm going to try and do really well. And I just love that there's, and it sounds like your fiance is the same way. Like that there's that desire and that I don't know. There's a sort of a sense of like risk taking and like
but I don't.
The daredevil thing. So like
I think it's because you didn't land. You just evolved into the right box. And he started off at, what his parents' expectations were, what he was supposed to do, go to law school, who he thought he was. And that's not the box he wants to be in. He's always looked at the other box, but like hasn't thought it applied to him because of the road he got on. I think it's just different.
Maybe,
like, I'm in the right box. Like I do whatever I want, anytime I want. But he is always looking over at that creative box. I think it sounds like that. To me, just from not knowing nothing about the situation. You're you're a gay rights activist. You're a gay marriage activist. And I didn't realize in my periphery, that's been there, that you've been involved in that, but certainly not as strongly as I've read about now. And I'm really interested in that about you, how you like really, that's been so important. Like you could be in a relationship, you could do whatever you want. It didn't have to be your cause. So I'm curious about your trajectory to get to that.
Well, just to answer your first question, I mean, growing up in Albuquerque as a closeted gay kid was not easy. It was a pretty conservative place when I first was living there. It's certainly become a lot more progressive now, but it was a place that I was really looking forward to getting out of. And so as soon as I could, I moved to New York to study theater. My parents were very supportive of that. And that's sort of where I blossomed to do who I was. I was amongst a community of people that made me feel very comfortable about being myself and talking about things that I never felt I could talk about before. So that was instrumental in me becoming, the person I am. And really, truly, theater saved my life in that way because it was a community that was built in that supported me. And but as far as like activism and fighting for marriage equality, that's really something that my husband, Justin, instilled in me. When he and I first met, he was still in law school, but he was working on the Proposition 8 case. The Proposition 8 was the proposition that outlawed same-sex marriage in California. And he was working for the nonprofit that was funding the lawsuit to debunk that. And so when Modern Family first started, his friends were like, you need to watch this show. It's like a real pop culture touchstone for exactly what's happening in the country right now. And like, I think it'd be really great things. It's going to do great things for marriage equality and for this fight you're in. And he's like, I'm just so busy with law school. I don't have time. Finally, he watched the pilot And that same day he went to the gym, and I happened to be at the gym as well. And so we ran into each other at the locker room. We were both fully clothed, I promise. And so he stopped me in the locker room. He was like, I just want to tell you, I watched the pilot, and basically said all the things that he wanted to say about how important he thought the show was going to be for this thing he was involved in. And it's so funny because I was very touched by him being so open about that. But I was also like, oh, you're cute. What's your name? How old are you? Like, I was getting all the important information.
Right.
And we ended up exchanging numbers, and he asked me out on a date, and I said, sure. No, I asked him out on a date, and he said, well, I have a boyfriend. I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing this. Like, he's like, we can go out for drinks as friends. I was like, I have enough friends, and I kind of just left it there.
Right.
But after a while, he broke up with his boyfriend, and we got together. And so when we actually started dating, I kind of absorbed all this passion for, activism that he sort of just, like kind of naturally emitted. And I was very inspired by him, and we were in this huge fight for marriage equality. And like, yes, I was just starting to date this guy, but this was a cause that I deeply cared about. And, we both talked about wanting to be married someday. And, I just, he really kind of was the driving force behind my initiation into like becoming an activist. And he helped me set up my foundation, and he was very active in that as well. It's so funny because like by the time I was in the 5th season of Modern Family, and Eric's character, my character were wanting to get married, a lot of the writers from Modern Family were in communication with my husband because he was sort of on the inside. And they were like, is this actually going to happen? Because they weren't going to break stories for the season of us getting married if marriage equality wasn't going to be legalized in California, because these characters lived in the same world that we all live in. It's not, we're not in like an alternate universe. They needed this thing to happen.
Yep.
So Justin was very kind of, he was like this inside mole of like, well, this is what we're talking about in DC. And to sort of tie this story up, this sort of like beautiful, like full circle moment of it all was in the episode where Eric and I decide to get married. There's a point where I'm watching at work as Mitchell, my character Mitchell. I'm watching on my computer the celebration of the Proposition 8 being overturned.
Oh my God.
And I'm watching on TV, and you can see on the computer screen the AFER, which is the company that Justin worked for, the nonprofit. You could see their signs up in the air, and it was just this like beautiful moment. It's like I'm watching as this character who's going to get married on television, and I'm watching my fiance at that point on the screen, celebrating in real life. It was just
so meta,
very meta.
Wow, that's very cool. And I have to bring up that I just, my daughter's turning 13 on Monday. And, when something happens at school that's challenging, it's like, it's traumatic, something that's like bullying or people being mean, or she's not good at a sport. I can't imagine I don't think the trauma of living in secret in high school is discussed enough. Like, it's got to be so tense every second of the day, living a lie that you're like, no one even, like, from what you're eating to what you're reading to what you're wearing to like, you're living a double life. It's so scary.
Well, they're very formative years. And, if you can't sort of be yourself, I mean, what does that do to those, it does stunt you in a lot of ways. But also, I hate to say things are character building because I was like, I don't know, I would have preferred an easier route.
Yeah.
But, I am who I am today because of a lot of things that happened to me at a very young age. I can't, truly.
No, but it's sometimes I'm sure you walk on eggshells about certain things that are in your body and your DNA because of that. Like me, I'm type A, and I'm always neurotic, and I'm always obsessing, and it's because of my craziness in my household. Like, always, so it's whatever. It is what it is. It happened, but we can only do what we can for our kids. And your surrogacy story is really interesting. Like, that is a story that, listen, I know People Magazine wrote about it, and that's great, but like, I don't think that most people really know about that interesting story about your husband. So so Justin, my husband, had cancer at a very young age, and before he started chemotherapy, his parents froze his sperm. Like, he went to, it's like a really weird thing. He was 13 at the time, 13 or 14, and he goes to like a sperm bake with his parents, and like goes into a room and does his thing, and then comes out like, okay, let's go get a hamburger. Like, and you're a kid. Crazy.
It was just he's like, in hindsight, he was like, that was an insane thing. But thank God, because years later, he meets someone that he wants to have kids with, who is me. And, we test his sperm to see how it's doing. And the stuff that he has now is no bueno. So we look at the stuff from, when he was 13 years old. And of course it's like mega sperm because it's from a teenager.
Right.
And so that's what we use to conceive our first kid. And, that's also one of the reasons why we wanted to work with a surrogate, because we sort of wanted to honor that choice that his parents made, and that really kind of beautiful, who thinks that far ahead?
But they don't mix it together ever? They don't mix two sperms together and do it like spinning?
No, you can't. I think that was like the old term for the spinner, but now what you can do, and a lot of my friends did, and we tried as well, is you get your eggs from a donor and you split them in half, and Justin took one half and I took the other, and then you sort of see which eggs are most viable, and you can take one egg from this parent or one egg from this parent and put them both in the surrogate, and then hopefully both will take, and you have twins. And so and one's genetically connected to one parent, one's genetically connected to another. So we tried that initially, and only Justin's took that mega sperm from 13.
Very competitive sperm.
Yeah, very competitive. So that's the only egg that actually took. So we only had one kid at a time. But we tried at the beginning to go for twins and just say, it's just, we always wanted to, and thought, let's just do it and get it over with. But
what is it like to be a gay father in Hollywood? Like, what is that? Does it require less explanation to your kids about other mommy and daddies, have different types of relationships, or no, because you're in LA? Like, what is that actually like?
Well, I mean, Beckett's a little too young to still be talking about it, but Justin and I have both circled around this conversation before. When it gets to that point and it's age appropriate, how are we going to discuss it? Because
how old are your kids?
Beckett is he'll be 3 in July, and Sully, our youngest. Yeah, we're almost at the age where he started to ask questions. Okay. But he's at a preschool right now, and we're the only gay couple there. So, and that's just where he's at right now. But I can't imagine. I just look back to how I grew up, and in Albuquerque there was no same-sex couples at all. There's definitely it's a more diverse world we're living in, first of all. But then LA, and we go to New York a lot, and we spend a lot of our time there. Our main places that we reside happen to be these very liberal places where there's obviously he's going to be exposed to so many more things than I was as a kid. So I think it will be easier. I think that there's certainly more resources. I was just looking for books when I was when we were expecting our second kid to read to my older son about you're going to become a big brother, but all the books talked about mommy and daddy and what's growing in mommy's belly. I was we don't have, that's not our situation. So there's still space for us to find ways to educate our children about alternate lifestyles and alternate ways to conceive and expand your family. I think that there's definitely a space there for that. So I have a lot of friends who have kids who are a little older than mine, and they're going to school, and their classmates are non-binary, or they're going by different pronouns. And for them, this thing that I still trip over, even as someone who's so passionate about the LGBTQ community and forwarding momentum, I still have trouble. I still trip up on my pronouns, and I'm totally working on it still. And my friends who are trans or non-binary are very generous with me, and they're always gently correcting me. But these kids that are growing up now, it slips off their tongue so easily, and they don't have a problem with it.
Right.
And that's incredibly encouraging. And I'm grateful. I think in that way there is forward momentum, and that the world is in some really safe hands with them. So yeah, I just hope we can continue to move forward that way.
Totally. Cocaine Bear is something that your husband found for you. Can you tell that story just briefly?
Yeah, well, Justin has access to my Instagram and Twitter because I'm not great at it. I am present on it, but sometimes he'll sneak on and post things for me, and I don't even realize he's done it. And when Elizabeth Banks was announcing that she was directing Cocaine Bear, she tweeted, I'm directing this movie called Cocaine Bear. Who wants to be in it? And so Justin from my Twitter account volunteered me
Oh my
as
God.
myself.
When was this?
This was, I don't know, like 2021. It was like
Okay.
3 months before she started filming.
Okay.
And so I get a phone call from her right away. We're old friends. I've known her for 20 years. And she just sort of launches into this conversation, assuming that obviously I had sent out this tweet. And I have no idea what the fuck she's talking about. She's like, so yeah, we're shooting this thing in Ireland. And like, I was like, is she on drugs? Like, what's happening? She's just rambling about this cocaine. But I have no idea what she's talking about. And so I kind of back her up and I get like, I realize that Justin has done this. And I was like, oh, well, ironically, the movie sounds really fun. I was like, can you send me the script? And so I read the script in like 3 pages in. I was like, oh, I'm absolutely 100% doing this movie. It's ridiculous. And, Justin, when we were at the premiere, he was like, I can't believe I got you this film. And I then remember, because I kind of forgot that he had volunteered me via Twitter.
That's amazing. And what is the film?
It's called Cocaine Bear, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of based on a true story about this bear who found this cocaine that was abandoned by these drug lords in the woods and ate copious amounts of it. And in real life, the bear died, like when it's cardiac arrest, and died. But Liz Banks and the writer reimagined what it would have been if the bear had not died and went on a killing spree instead. And it's sort of this very, have you not heard of Cocaine Bear, Bethenny?
No, is that bad?
You're literally the only person.
No, but don't be insulted because I don't know so many things, but I read about every person that comes on here and I never pretend that I know something I don't. So I apologize.
No, it's so funny because like even like it would be when the trailer came out, it became like this kind of like viral thing that everyone was sharing. Like all these people who I don't know anything about my work were like, oh my God, are you in that movie Cocaine Bear? I was like,
Paul would know everything about it. He'd be embarrassed, but you have no idea the number of things the things that I know are useless. And then things that everybody knows about, I don't know. I'm always late to parties.
Don't you worry about it at all. I'm not offended at all. I just think it's hilarious. Like literally, like my like high school teacher from years ago was like knew about it. I was like, how does everyone know about this film? It's a ridiculous film. It's really.
I didn't know
really
that Every
silly.
Kiss Began with K was about the letter K. Every Kiss Begins with K. I didn't know it was about like. No, that was about the letter K at the beginning of every kiss. I didn't know that. I learned that at the mall last year, and
what did you think about like K? Like I
just thought just K Jewel. Just Every Kiss Begins with K Jewelers. Like I don't know. I never thought about it. I just never knew. And someone said, yeah, because it's K. It's a K at the beginning of a kiss. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I still don't know if it's a GIF or a GIF, and I don't know if it's the gig or the jig is up.
And the meme. I don't know meme. I don't know.
Me too. And I don't know if it's the gig is up or the jig.
But wait, did you know that? Did you know that Liza Minnelli was Judy Garland's daughter?
Yes. Why did?
Because so many people have like, oh, that's like an aha moment for them. I was like, are you kidding me? Get out of here. I think Justin pretty recently realized that. He's like, oh, Stop. I didn't put that together.
You know what? The other one, there's another one like that. Well, but every gay man knows that that Gloria Vanderbilt is Anderson Cooper's mom.
Anderson Cooper's mom, yeah. Well,
that's a big one, though. That's like an iconic one. Yeah, that's really funny. That's really funny. And then
I've been in Anderson's house in the Hamptons, which is Gloria's old summer home. And there's like paint. She's also a really fantastic painter, and he has all these paintings that his mom did, and with her signature at the bottom. And she had the Gloria Vanderbilt jeans that had her signature on the pocket. I was like, oh my God, it's the signature. That's the signature. It was really cool.
I lived for those jeans. But I'll do a circle back for you. I've been to his townhouse in New York City at Andy Cohen's book party where he has a large bear that is it's probably on cocaine also. He has a large bear, a large animal. I think it's a bear, isn't it? Have you ever seen it?
I actually haven't been in the firehouse.
Oh, he has like a giant animal, and I'd be willing to bet it was a bear. I got to text Andy.
Okay.
Wow. I'm so glad to meet you. And I'm getting, when I meet people like you who are smart and interesting and so talented and like who I respect, I get more, of course I have to put it on me. I get more proud of myself. I've been interviewing really interesting men lately. And I think I might be finding a niche. Like Andrew McCarthy was so interesting. And then David Arquette, I knew so little about him. And I'm finding that somehow every week it's becoming this theme where I'm interviewing these like interesting male actors that I respect and admire and like are so deep and interesting. So I'm liking that I'm finding this little corner.
That kind of, you put me in the same categories then. You've never seen all three of us in the same place though, so we could be the same
I never
guy.
have, but I don't know how much you know about Andrew McCarthy. He's fascinating. And I like that, like, yeah. And a lot of the men are like, not the types that would go on to this kind of that what they would think this podcast is. So I'm feeling like it's better. It's good for me because I'm getting a little street cred in this little space of people that I admire as like serious actors who aren't going to fuck around and do stupid, fluffy, cheesy podcasts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting excited. I'm feeling like,
and
I'm
ironically, wait, do you know that I'm about to start a podcast?
Oh, great. What's it about?
So I'm actually really excited to have similar conversations with people. It's called Dinner's on Me. And I take the first season's all people I know and love, but I take a friend out to a dinner at a great restaurant. Obviously, we talk about the food in the restaurant. Food is something I'm very passionate about. I wrote a cookbook. Nice. So we talk about the restaurant itself, but then it ends up just being a conversation, less about like, what are you working on now, and more about stuff like this, like what we're talking about.
Right.
And the first season I have, I'd start the first episode with me and Julie Bowen. A little reuniting with my on-screen sister from Modern Family, and then Jesse Williams from Grey's Anatomy, who I just wrapped a play with in New York. Niecy Nash. We have Kristen Bell, Fred Armisen,
nice.
Tracy Ellis Ross.
That's something to be proud of.
It's been really great. It's called Dinner's on Me, and it's I think launching on May 23rd. So.
I'm gonna listen. Congratulations! That could actually that could be the first podcast I've ever listened to because I like the concept. Yeah, I love the concept.
Thank you.
One day when you flush through all your other podcasts you're doing, I have a podcast called Rewives, and in the beginning, everyone thought it was Paul, my fiance. We have a very similar, you and I, like with our partner. Mm-hmm. He was like, you have to be doing a rewatch. You have to be doing a rewatch. Everyone's doing rewatches. And I'm like, I don't want to like break down the show. Like, it's not my personality. And he's like, well, people want to hear he called me. He said, Tom Brady about the game. But I found my way in, which was to have really, really successful, intelligent people on that may not have even watched. And we have this conversation like what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. About this scene, but we end up talking about life and relationships and infidelity. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about trashy reality TV. We end up talking about dynamics. So it has become wildly successful, like crazy.
That's great.
If you want to come on sometime, you'll enjoy it because it takes it off you. You end up talking more about you through something crazy thing that happened on the show that has nothing to do with you, but it's actually pretty interesting. You'll like it if you want to. So at some point, I'll have them ask you if you want to do it. You might enjoy it.
That sounds amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really grateful. It was such a good, and now I know you, and I love just getting to know people. I feel like I know you.
I know. It's been nice to spend a little time with you.
Thank you. And love to your family and your kids and your husband,
Bethenny.
and only amazing things. And I can't wait to hear what happens with you next. Now I know this is all about you. I've been reading about you all morning.
So now I know. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, love. See ya.
So that was really nice because I respect Jesse Tyler Ferguson as a real actor. And as I said to him, I've started to think about the evolution of this podcast. And I remember having Hillary Clinton on and being nervous and going to like another location to make sure the tech was perfect. And nobody really intimidates me now. There have been people where their publicists are like, they're a little bit of a curmudgeon. They might be a little difficult. And everybody has been great because I think I have a level of respect from them. And it just is making me respect myself more for the path that I've been on, that I didn't want things to be sort of low-hanging fruit, trashy, ratting people out in the press, like just to get clicks. And we don't do that at all. I've just wanted it to be really natural and really... And I hate to say cheesy things like safe space, but just like a place where a conversation about who they really are is going to happen. It doesn't matter where it goes. So I'm really, really excited. And it's been this little niche of like these interesting, well-respected actor males that are so smart. So that could be one of my little pockets. I like it.